Welcome back to the Autry Benton Show. We've got great schools in Horry County, and we have one of our school board members with us today, and he's running to be the chair. And I'm looking forward to getting to know him better. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to see you, Autry.
How's things going?
Going great. Can't complain. I was just telling you earlier, when you're retired, you get to choose what you want to do. So I have some great days going now.
So retirement's everything is cracked up to be, eh?
It is. As long as you find what your next step in life is, what you want to do to make a difference.
I got you. You got to stay busy doing something.
Got to stay busy doing something, especially if you work for 40 years and you're just now getting time to do some things you want to do. So.
Right. That's great. That's great. Well, good deal. Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your service to the board already. Are you enjoying serving?
I am enjoying serving. I tell folks I've been involved with Horry County Schools. I worked for them 38 years, and so I've seen a lot of boards over the years. In fact, when I started, there were 7 members on the Board of Education, and they used to meet in the old jail behind the courthouse. That was a long time ago. So I've seen a lot of good board members. I've seen some that weren't so good. So it's really unique to be on that side of the table now.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, let's step back in time a little bit. Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Abbeville, South Carolina, the upper part of the state, and had a wonderful childhood. Had 2 brothers. My mother was a cosmetologist. She fixed hair from the time she graduated from high school and for the next 60 years, so she kept doing that. My dad, he served in the military, and then he worked in a textile plant and then worked for a utility, GTE. So,
well, thank you for his service.
That was, he always told me about some of those stories being in Korea and all, and that you know, it really makes you appreciate what those people go through and things. So, but I grew up a small town. Enjoyed everything. I had 2 grandfathers who were farmers, so I got to spend a lot of time in the summer on those farms. One of them actually grew some cotton up there, and 69, 70, they made us all get out there and pick it. So that was a unique experience that I don't think many have.
So you have picked cotton?
I have picked cotton out of the field. So we drug it along. They didn't have a big plot, so yes, we picked cotton. So that was a hard job to do as a little boy. So, but I enjoyed that. Grew up. Me and my brother were close. I had an older brother who was 9 years older, but my other brother is only 18 months different. So we kind of hung out together and stuff. So, but it was a wonderful time growing up in a small town there.
Yeah. So it was kind of rural, kind of a small community.
Abbeville's very rural. We were out in the country. I actually had some cows and did some showing of cows and things. We had mostly livestock in the upper part of the state. We didn't have a lot of row crops and things except for some corn and soybeans and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the cotton they grew up there, did they keep it locally in the textile?
That was, you remember back then the entire upstate was all textiles, textile mills everywhere. Milliken was big in Abbeville. My grandmother worked there. Both of my grandfathers worked in textile mills and farmed. So it was a big thing. My dad started there. In fact, he dropped out of high school to do that, but ended up going back to school and finishing when he started with GTE. So.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So you spent a lot of time on the farms with your grandfather?
A lot of times. I love the outdoors, yes.
Yeah. So you know all about farm life.
All about farming. And I guess that made it kind of natural when I went to Abbeville High. I took an agriculture class. Okay. And that was a big one. And had a great ag teacher, Mr. Stan Keaton. And he got me involved in leadership and public speaking. In fact, I tell folks, I don't know those that know Sam Ward in Horry County, but when he started with Land Resources, it was my first speaking contest.
Wow.
And I met him back there, my goodness, many years ago. He lives in Ainer now, so we talk about that a lot of times. So, but Mr. Keaton was a great ag teacher. I really didn't have plans to go to college. And, you know, no one in my family had ever gone to college. I was just going to go to work for a utility, the co-op or something. And he kind of kept after me and said, you know, you can go to college, and convinced me to go to Clemson, which was his alma mater. And I was working for a farm supply man. He went to Clemson too, so he kind of encouraged me also. So I went off to college and majored in agricultural education because I had a great ag teacher. I said, this was like a great thing to do. So that's what I ended up doing. And kind of unique, though, I tell you, to get to Horry County. One of my professors was a graduate of Floyd's High School. Dr. Lloyd Blanton, Frankie Blanton, who's in Loris, his brother, was one of mine. And when I was ready to graduate, he came to me and said, you know, have you ever thought about the lower part of the state? I said, what? I said, that's 4 hours away. I don't know anything about that. And he said, well, how about just go for an interview? So I did. I went to Green C. Floyd's High School at the time and interviewed with Mr. Luther Enzer, and there was just something about it.
Yeah.
It just felt right. You know, sometimes the Lord leads you down a path and opens up doors, and you just have to step through them. And I said, well, that's a long way from home, but that's where I'm going.
Wow.
So I started at Green C. Floyd's High School in 1985.
Yeah. So you enjoyed college? Was college pretty easy for
yes,
you?
I enjoyed it. I was a fraternity fellow. Alpha Gamma Rho was a fraternity, which was all ag boys.
Okay.
We went hunting on the weekends and fishing all the time. So it's kind of a family there at Clemson, which made it a lot more interesting. I was on the Ag Council and a lot of leadership things there, but I enjoyed my time. Clemson was smaller then. The town was much smaller then, so I really enjoyed my time at Clemson.
That's good. That's good. Academics, all that was pretty easy?
Oh, no, it was not very easy there. I remember taking that chemistry class a couple of times, but I still graduated with honors, which was, I was glad. Once you got past that freshman year, you kind of knew what you needed to do, and you had some friends in class with you could study together, and you kind of find the way there.
Yeah. Where'd you meet your wife at?
My wife and I actually grew up together, went to school 12 years at Abbeville, but didn't date at all while we were in high school. Yeah. I actually came home during my senior year. I did my student teaching at Abbeville High from Clemson, and met her. She was working at a lawyer's office, and invited her out to dinner and just hit off, and I've been very blessed. She's a wonderful wife. We have two beautiful boys too. So.
Yeah. So how long y'all been married?
41 years.
41 years. Well, it's kind of a thing I ask everybody here, what's some marriage advice you'd give our
Oh my goodness. It's a lot of give and take.
A lot of give and take.
I think today we find some people are more about themselves than others. So if you're giving to others, they're going to give back to you. And I think that makes a big difference in a marriage.
That's good. So tell us about your kids.
Oh, I got two boys, Zachary and Seth. Zachary works for HTC. They went to school in Aner. And Seth drives for Dorman Site Work, so he loves driving a truck. So both of them have those blue-collar jobs, you call it. They certainly wanted nothing to do with education after their mom and dad's. My wife went back to school and became an elementary teacher and taught for the district for 33 years. Okay. And retired from Midland as a librarian. So.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So graduating, so took an interview in Horry County. Did you know much about Horry County then?
Not one thing, except that we came every summer to Myrtle Beach for our vacation. Okay. My mom always made sure that's where we came for a week, but knew nothing about it. I showed up at the old, and I was at the old Floyd's High School down in Duford. So a lot different then. But Mr. Ezra, it was kind of funny. I said, Mr. Ezra, I know nothing about tobacco, and that's all that was up there then. Tobacco everywhere. So he made arrangements for me to go work with one of the farmers in the area for a week. That was the worst work I've ever done in my life.
Tough work, ain't it?
We topped, and we went through that. It was hot, and I'll tell you, in the upstate, we don't have these gnats and this high humidity. So I had to get used to all of that to start with. But I learned a lot, and I had some great students up there, and it was just the beginning of a great career.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that. I think even our earlier generation, we think about Myrtle Beach tourism is big, but like the western part of our county, I mean, tobacco's...
It carried the county a long time.
Long time. It's very much a part of Horry County.
Very much. And I tell folks, when I hear folks talking about our heritage and history, I think about a lot of those old farmers up there that I had an opportunity to talk with and all. And, you know, many of them owned the little motels at the beach.
Yes, sir.
And ran them, but they closed them down after Labor Day. So, that's kind of a lot of history I think we miss out on today. Is that here, and they were very independent too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they
the
did.
Independent Republic.
The Independent Republic of Horry. So I learned a lot from them, and it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and even today, even though our county is becoming more populated, we still have a very rural western part of our county we don't, which is still beautiful.
It is.
It's great. So anyway, took an interview, came down here, and you've been here ever since.
Been here ever since. I'm very blessed at Green C. Floyd's High School. I learned a lot of good basic things about teaching there. Focusing on the kids, being a part of a community, those kind of things. That was very important in that small school up there. So I learned a lot about that. And after Mr. Ezra retired, I became an assistant principal there. And then after a couple of years, an opening came at Aner, and I was principal at Aner for 10 years. So kind of stayed in the western portion for the first half of my career. So that was I still live there now. Like you said, it's beautiful country up there.
Absolutely. So you instantly love teaching. I mean, you love.
Oh gosh, that was always my first love.
Okay.
And I tell folks, you know, when I was in high school, there was a thought in my mind I might become a preacher. Because I was very active in church and done that. And, you know, the Lord just kind of led me down this path. And I tell folks, there's lots of different types of ministry.
Oh, yeah.
And public schools is a right place to be a Christian example.
Absolutely.
And I found that over and over. And sometimes God just puts you in a young person's life just at the time they need you.
Yeah.
And that has been the greatest reward I've had throughout my entire career. So, yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you know, I've often told my kids the best love, best meal, best attention, best care that some kids will be inside of a school. Do you believe that? I mean,
I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. I had kids up there who, a lot of times back then, we'd take them home. I'd have soil judging and different kind of things after school. I'd take them home, and I remember visiting some of those homes where they may even back then be a dirt floor that they were on, or a single wide that the end was out of it and it was covered in plastic. Things like that, or kids that would come and you could see them in the same clothes every day.
Yeah.
And things. So yes, I've seen that, and how we have a lot of things that we can do for others. And those kids.
That's so important. And you said it. So you made a transition from teaching to administration. Was that naturally just what happened, or you wanted to do it?
I had. I'll tell you. Agriculture teachers for 12 months. So I'd spent a lot of time around Mr. Enzer during that time. So I'd learned a lot about administration, and found it was a very important part, because your administrators kind of set the tone for the whole school. If you got a bad one, not a good culture. If you had a good one, teachers seem to flourish and kids seem to flourish. So I kind of was drawn to that. And when he retired, Mr. McPherson was the assistant principal. He became principal. He came to me and said, you know, you need to apply. I loved it, because I said, well, sure. And that's when I went into it. And Dr. Smith came in, and the opening came at Aner just after 2 years of being an assistant principal. So I became the youngest principal in secondary principal in Horry County at that time. And that was a transition I don't know that I was ready for either. But we did well. I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. And tell me that position you took one more time.
I was principal at Aner High School.
Aner High School. How many years were you there?
10 years. 10 years. We were Palmetto's finest, and a lot of things went on during that time, but we were very proud, and the kids did very well. So
well, that's
very
great.
Proud of them.
What was your biggest takeaway from being a principal of a school?
Oh, politics are always a part of everything that goes on, regardless. You know, that's the hardest thing, I think. There's some things you see that you need to do, but you can't do.
Yeah.
And that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And I've always been one of these that the people that are at the place doing the work need to be the ones making the decisions. And we, during that time, there was a big transition in Horry County Schools. We were becoming more wanting every school to be just alike. And that was not my philosophy of anything, because each community is different. And you want your school to be reflective of your community and the kids that are there. So I just couldn't quite go down that path as easily as some others could, I guess.
Yeah, I got you. Have you seen, because you serve on the school board now, do you see that you went to a shift back towards, you know, we sat down with Miss Davis, and the one thing that I took away from her interview was, and I learned that, I mean, she hires all her staff inside the school, and I kind of took it away. She sets the tone for her school.
She does. Miss Davis is a graduate of Green C. Floyd's High School.
Oh, wow.
I was a student there when I was a teacher there.
Yeah.
So I've known Maquita since she's been there. And yes, they do set the tone. And they do have a lot of decision making in it. It's a very important position for a school to have a great leadership team, really, in order to be successful.
Yeah, that's got you. Good deal. And so you left Aner High School, and then you say you went... I
left Aner High School, a cloud of controversy at that time. I fell out with the superintendent, and she was not happy with me, so I went back to teaching.
Okay.
I went back into the classroom, and I went to Socks High School. In fact, I spent a year doing adult education, which was That was a great transition for me. I loved working with the older adults who wanted to learn and wanted to do, plus kids who had dropped out who wanted to finish their diploma.
Does that still fall under Horry County Schools?
It does, and it's a wonderful program. Etta Green is our Director of Adult Education right now. You need to have her on. She will knock your socks off.
Okay.
She does a great job, and it's an opportunity for kids who don't make it through high school to finish their degree.
Okay.
Plus, a lot of our adults who maybe dropped out or something over the years, they can go back and get a degree, and she also helps with job placement and things like that. So.
Yeah. And you say you taught in that program. Did you find that those adults were eager to get
Yes, they would be there knocking the door down. I was at the Loris Education Center at that time, and they would be in there and spend all day working on assignments and have the best questions and all. I actually had the oldest one that we'd had. He was 68 years old. Who came in and said, I just want to do this.
Yeah.
And
wow.
he completed his GED, and which was it's not an easy test that people think.
Yeah.
But he studied and studied and studied and I think he made the highest score that we'd had that year.
Wow.
So that was really great.
Education still is a blessing, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
It is, I guess, for sure. Well, good deal. So, I met you a couple years ago. You ran for school board. So tell us what pushed you in retirement to turn around and run for school board?
Well, I've watched our school board, and I really think it's important that we do have some educators who know the system. What I found was the school board would be spinning its wheels on things that really were not having an effect in the classroom. And that's where we need to have an effect, where the kids are. Mm-hmm. And the decision the school board making, we're actually taking away from some of the things that needed to be happening at schools. When you're on a school board, you're determining the goals for the district and the superintendent. You're determining funding sources for programs and things like that. You're determining facilities. And one of the things I found is if you don't have the correct facilities to do something, it handicaps you in meeting those kids' needs. So those are some of the main things that the school board can do. Another thing that can be a negative with the school board is if you have certain ones on there who are constantly creating chaos for the district, it takes away from the effort that needs to be put in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Your district staff, if they're constantly working on school board things, then they're not helping the schools to get the things and resources they need. Mm-hmm. So you got to kind of have a balance of the whole thing there, and everyone working together to achieve our very best for our kids.
Yeah, to me, just from the outside looking in, it looks like y'all got a good board working together.
The board is very effective now. Yes, I've enjoyed working with them. Everyone on there. Melody's wonderful. She's running for chair too, and a wonderful person too. So I do think we have an excellent board now that's been working very hard to do the right things. And one of the biggest things that they've done the year before I came on was hired a new superintendent, and Mr. Jones has done an excellent job.
Have you enjoyed working with him?
Yes, he's kind of a soul like mine. He was in the high school as a high school principal. We talk about a lot of similar things that have happened to us over our careers. So I do kind of find him a kindred spirit with me. So I think he's doing an excellent job, and I think you're going to see even greater things in the next few years as he learns the South Carolina system better and gets his vision along with the board's vision on where we need to go.
Yeah, I got you. What y'all do is so important. I mean, y'all got a lot of students, a lot of staff. We've got a growing population. Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all's budget's around $1 billion?
I think 1.2. We're working on it right now, so it's in that range. It's over $1 billion.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of. Well, see, 80-something% of it's already done in personnel, and a lot of the personnel issues come to us from the state as far as mandates and things like that. So, not a lot of soft money in that. You also have special ed money, you have federal money, and things like that are earmarked for special programs. Mm-hmm. So, the general fund's the only thing we really control as far as the spending is concerned.
Yeah, I got you. Where do you see us still growing? Do y'all need more facilities? How does facilities fit?
I think we're going to still be growing. You mentioned the western portion. I'm up there every day. I see housing developments jump up there right and left. And a lot of the ones that are moving in there have kids because, once you get on that side of Conway, the housing prices are lower. So you can afford it as a family with children. So I see we're going to have to monitor our facility needs. We have 3 what we call red zone schools in the Aner attendance area, Midland, Aner Elementary, and the middle school.
What does that mean?
That means it's over 100% of its design capacity. Ooh. If it's over 100% of its design capacity, now we can bring in modular units and things, but that's not the answer, because you can bring in all the modular units, but you still have the same size cafeteria, you still have the same size gym, all those things are the same. So you could put more classrooms in, but you may not have the core facilities that you need. So we've been looking, I think one of the things that the superintendent did that's very good is that we're creating a land bank of areas where we see the growth coming. Out on Enoch Road is in the Aner attendance area. We bought that property. We just bought some in Carolina Forest because Carolina Forest High School is very large. It's not the largest high school in South Carolina, but because of where it's located, traffic problems are we just had not designed Horry County to handle this many cars at one time. So I think we're working on a lot of those things.
And you mentioned Carolina Forest High School. So what? Now that y'all there, what's some ideas for that? Do you try to bring students to other high schools, or do you start another high school?
People say, well, let's adjust attendance areas. You got to be very careful about that. You don't want to adjust attendance area and 3 years later have to move it back.
Okay.
Conway High School is not quite to capacity right now, but if you drive out 378, you see a lot of housing developments that have already been approved out that way, which would be in the Conway attendance area. We got PD Elementary out there that's over capacity right now, and that's in the Conway attendance area. So there are a lot of ways that you need to look at it. I think we are going to need some more facilities. That's just a normal, because you don't want your elementary schools to get too large. We're kind of shooting around 750, 800 as a max in those. And we just built 2 in Carolina Forest, which brought those down tremendously. So that's a lot better in there. So yeah, we're looking at a lot of the things like that to keep up. We've got an excellent facilities department, and people don't always give credit to those people that are working every day. Joe Birch and them are looking at our capital improvements. When you've got 58 buildings right now to keep up,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of buildings, and HVAC systems do not last forever.
Yeah.
And we've got things just like at Midland. We used to not have traffic loops. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but elementary schools now have that, because kids used to ride the bus. They're not riding the bus anymore.
Right.
So a lot of those things have been changes that we've kind of had to catch up with and do that. So
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I think land banking's smart from my perspective, because land never loses its value. If you don't need it, school district could always sell it.
Well, we had a lot of feedback on the last one, because we did give an exorbitant amount. But we'd looked at that for over a year at different places in the Carolina Forest area. And, I know it's too much, but you don't have much choice these days.
Yeah.
When the piece beside it sold for the exact same amount per acre, we were locked in then.
Yeah.
So a lot of the information we get is not public until we've made that decision.
Yeah. I got you. Good deal. How about teachers? Do y'all have recruiting teachers? You are a teacher at heart. Do y'all have problems with that, or you feel like you got to get?
We're doing pretty good with that now. We've really worked on salaries. We have a higher salary schedule than the basic for the state, which sets your base salary. So and what we've done too is not only looked at first year teachers and their salaries, but what are we doing for veteran teachers as they get older, because their needs are greater and they're looking toward retirement and those kind of things. So we've done a very good job. Our human resources department, we have job fairs. We had a great one at Conway High School. And this year we have fewer vacancies than we've had applicants. So we're doing very good as far as getting teachers in.
I think having Coastal here, has that been a good feeder?
That's been a good thing. We've got some partnerships with Coastal.
Yeah.
The Coastal do their internships in our schools, so we get to see how good they are before we actually have to hire someone.
Yeah.
So I think it gives us better choices.
I got you. Good deal. Talk to me about safety in schools. That's a big issue.
That's a big issue. I never would have thought about that when I started Green C. Flores High School, because one of the first jobs I had was to unlock all the doors, because kids, and when you went to school, you never had to worry about the door being locked or anything like that. So we've just gotten into a different type of world there. We have an excellent safety problem. Mike Fredericks is our coordinator of safety. He's our executive director for it, and he has a good background in law enforcement. We've got a lot of things in place as far as our guards at each school. that are there. We're putting in a strategic system right now. That's a system where every staff member will have a card on them. And if they see someone that's not supposed to be there, or say there's a medical emergency with a child, they'll punch that card 3 times. It'll bring the school administration to them.
Okay.
If they punch it 7 times, then it will lock down the school and bring in law enforcement.
Oh,
so
wow.
any individual that you have, we're doing the staff development on it now, but a lot of things that we're putting in place are really making our schools very safe environments.
And that program is something y'all working on?
We have purchased it. Several other districts already have it.
Yeah.
So we've purchased it, and all the installation, I think, is already in place.
Yeah.
What you've got to do is you do have to have staff development. You don't want a teacher or a staff member punching it too much and just closing down. Because as soon as that happens, it hits the news, the parents call, and then we have to send out an explanation of what occurred.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of those things that we have really made our schools secure. And you know, we send the kids through every morning through the open gate system to check for any firearms or anything like that. So that's been going on for years now. I did searches at Autry High School for years.
Yeah.
So we really worked on a lot of those things.
That's good. Well, I want to brag on y'all. I've said it opening the show. We've got great schools. We got great facilities in Horry County. We're blessed.
Yes, we are. We are blessed.
And I also want to brag on y'all. I appreciate what y'all put efforts into. Not everybody's path is college. Sometimes it's the trade, sometimes it's military. And I see literature from the school district all the time is pointing students to that. And I think that's important.
I do too.
Not everybody's saying,
I was a career technology teacher.
Yeah.
And so I saw both sides. Plus, I brought the IB program to Inner High School. So I've seen the gambit of kids. I think one of the things we've got to do is make sure we have multiple programs available for kids, because you don't know what a child's talents are. Mm-hmm. And they really don't know themselves until we expose them to something. You know, I loved watching you interview your son about his path there.
Yeah.
And I've heard many of them head down that athlete path.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they all start off that way, but then something happens. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to be able to have some things to fall back and look at different paths for them at that point in life.
Yeah. Quickly running out of time, but tell us why you're running for chair and kind of your thoughts on that.
Well, you know, I thought about it a long time. It's public service is a difficult thing today. I think that as far as the chair position is, and I've talked with David and I've looked at the whole thing. The job of the chair is to lead the board in a direction, to kind of give them insight into things. One thing that I can bring to that is my knowledge of the district. I know every division we have. I know how the state board works. I know how the legislature works. I know what all the things that limit us and what we can do. So I think I can prevent us from spending a lot of time doing things that we really don't have any say-so over. Mm-hmm. You know, and people don't realize that. I see a lot of the campaigns that are out there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No, you're not, because there's a state regulation that says we're not going to do that. And until you know those kind of things, you can spend a lot of time on that, which could be better spent serving the kids and doing things that really can. We need to listen to our teachers. We need to listen to our school people. What do you need to be successful? And work with them to provide those resources. And I think as chair, I can help us go down that path. And I just love serving people.
Good.
You know, and I just feel like the Lord's led me to run for chair.
Well, good. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, that's nice. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Folks, as we finish up today, school board, it matters. Do your research. Know we're in a campaign season. It's your American right to vote. So make sure you take opportunity to vote. Join us next time